Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday the 13th of May. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The investigation into the shadowy family network that owned the ill-fated Sewolho ferry has hit a snag, with key suspects refusing to show up for questioning. Bad weather at the accident site has hampered search operations for 4 straight days. Korea's ruling Saenuri Party has selected political heavyweight Jung Hyun-seon to run for Seoul mayor. He'll go toe-to-toe with incumbent Park Won-soon in less than a month. Plus, Korea and Japan will hold a second round of talks in Tokyo this week on the issue of Korean victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery. We start with the latest on the Sewolho ferry disaster. Nearly 1 month has passed since the ferry sank, and investigators believe they are edging closer to uncovering the real owner of the sunken vessel. But making significant headway is proving difficult, as those with the closest ties to the man in question are refusing to cooperate. Connie Kim starts us off.
Investigators believe they are narrowing in on the real owner of the sunken Sewolho ferry, which they believe is the key to unlocking what may have caused the accident. Key figures associated with Cheongjin Marine Company, the practical owner of the ferry, have not been cooperating with the investigation. Prosecutors summoned in Yoo Dae-gyun, the first son of Cheongjin owner Yoo Byung-an, for questioning Monday morning, but he failed to appear. If he had shown up, they would have asked him about his involvement in Sewol Group, under which Cheongjin operates. The prosecution has issued an arrest warrant for Yoo to force him in. Yoo currently holds majority shares in 3 Sewol Group affiliates. He was paid nearly $10,000 a month for his duties, and the prosecution suspects he is deeply involved with the day-to-day operations. Investigators are also looking at him on charges of tax evasion. Prosecutors did have a chance to talk with another member of the Yoo family on Sunday. Yoo Byung-il, the older brother of Cheongjin owner Yoo Byung-an, was questioned overnight on his possible involvement in the construction of the Sewolho ferry and the business operations of Cheongjin Marine Company. Yoo Byung-an is likely to be summoned sometime this week. While investigators hone in on the ferry operator and owner, the search for those still missing in the accident continues off Jindo Island in southwestern Korea. Fast tidal currents have made it difficult for rescue personnel to find the 29 passengers still unaccounted for. Operations are focused on the 3rd and 4th floor of the vessel, but with the threat of the 4th floor collapsing, authorities say divers are looking for a new way inside by breaking through the walls of the vessel. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Now, while the captain and many of the crew of the Sewolho ferry have been widely vilified in Korea for their cowardly actions during the accident, there were a handful of heroes who paid the ultimate price, helping others. The Korean government on Monday recognized 3 part-time crew members who died as national martyrs. 22-year-old Park Ji-young, a part-time worker on the ferry, endeared herself to the nation after it came to light that she had given her life jacket to a passenger as she sought to guide people to safety. Ki-woong and Jung Hyun-seon, an engaged couple who also worked for the ferry operator, could have escaped the sinking vessel, but they stayed to help trapped passengers. Their designation as martyrs means they can be buried at a national cemetery. Their families will also be eligible for financial compensation, medical assistance and other incentives. The government is also reviewing a list of others who were aboard the Sewolho for the martyr designation. Staying on the ferry disaster, and President Park Geun-hye is expected to deliver an address to the nation in the coming days to apologize for the Sewolho ferry disaster and the government's handling of the tragedy. She will also unveil a new plan to improve all aspects of safety in Korea. Our Chae-yu-sun reports.
When President Park Geun-hye addresses the nation in the coming days, she's expected to apologize to the Korean people for the government's failure to prevent the Sewolho ferry tragedy. She has apologized a number of times since the accident nearly a month ago, but has been criticized for not making one directly to the public. In her speech, President Park will also lay out the details of a new master plan to bolster national safety and a new ministry she's previously pledged to establish to oversee emergency response and management.
재난 안전의 컨트롤 타워에 대해서는 전담 부처를 설치해서 사회 재난과 자연 재해 관리를 일원화해 효율적이고 강력한 통합 재난 대응 체계를 구축하는 것이 바람직하다는 결론에 이르렀습니다.
At a surprise meeting with her senior secretaries on Sunday, the president also discussed ways to bring about sweeping reforms to public service and root out irregularities that are blamed for having caused a deadly ferry accident. It's a sentiment President Park first iterated 2 weeks after the Sewolho ferry sank.
이번에는 반드시 과거로부터 이어져 온 잘못된 문제들을 바로잡고 새로운 대한민국의 틀을 다시 잡아서 국민들의 신뢰를 되찾고 안심하고 살 수 있는 대한민국을 만드는 길에 나설 것입니다.
There's also speculation about reshuffles within the cabinet and the presidential office, especially as a number of officials have been slammed publicly for inconsiderate behavior since the Sewolho accident. The president's address will likely come either Tuesday, when a cabinet meeting is scheduled, or towards the end of the week, when the prosecution and police are expected to announce an interim report on their joint ferry disaster probe. Choi Yu-sun, ARIRANG News.
Korea's ruling Saenuri Party has selected billionaire business tycoon turned politician Jung Hyun-seon to run for Seoul mayor in the June 4th local elections. He's going to face off against sitting mayor Park Won-soon. Ji Myung-gil reports.
When voters in Seoul take to the polls next month to cast their ballots for mayor, the name under the Saenuri Party banner will read Jung Hyun-seon. The 7-term lawmaker and former presidential candidate beat out former Prime Minister Kim-hong-sik and Supreme Council member Lee Hae-hoon in a primary on Monday at Seoul's Olympic Gymnastics Hall. After earning the nomination, Chung pledged to go out and win come June 4th.
I will fight to win back Seoul's mayoral seat in the upcoming June 4th local elections. I will provide more quality jobs and improve welfare systems for Seoul's citizens. I will work for President Park Geun-hye, our Saenuri Party, and for the people who love our country.
The business tycoon, the largest shareholder in Hyundai Heavy Industries, said he had a vision to make Seoul the economic, cultural, and tourism center of East Asia. He also said he wanted to make the capital a more attractive place to live, pointing out that the capital's population has fallen below the 10 million mark this year. Chung was selected through a process that gives the votes of party delegates, party members, and ordinary citizens 80% weight. Opinion polls accounted for 20%. Chung will face off in the race against incumbent Park Won-soon of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy. With the contenders for Seoul mayor decided, Chung and Park are expected to hit the campaign trail next week as they look to secure a 4-year term running the nation's capital. Ji Myung-gil, ARIRANG News.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. The South Korean government came out with an uncharacteristically strong criticism of North Korea on Monday, saying the country exists for one person only and must disappear soon. Our Hwang Ji-ae tells us what prompted Seoul's Defense Ministry spokesperson to go on the offensive.
South Korea's defense ministry ramped up its criticism of North Korea Monday, even going as far as to say the regime must disappear soon. Defense Ministry spokesperson Kim Min-seok said during a press briefing that North Korea is not a real country and exists solely for the benefit of one person, referring to its young dictator Kim Jong-un.
Can North Korea even be regarded as a country? Is there human rights? Is there freedom? It continues to make false claims that are historically retrograde. It's a country that cannot exist and should disappear soon.
The comments, which came as a response to North Korea's denial of responsibility over the 3 drones found near the inter-Korean border earlier this year, will likely draw the ire of Pyongyang. While South Korea has been highly critical of North Korea's nuclear ambitions, its latest remarks contain much stronger language than usual. Seoul tries to avoid commenting on anything that could be interpreted as a collapse of the North Korean regime over worries of provoking Pyongyang. The two Koreas had agreed earlier this year to end all cross-border slandering, but North Korea has not complied, hurling sexist and racist remarks against the leaders of South Korea and the United States ever since President Obama's visit to Seoul late last month. The two leaders had vowed then to stand shoulder to shoulder against any North Korean provocations. Renewed inter-Korean tensions are sparking concerns of a fourth nuclear test by North Korea in protest of what it calls U.S. and South Korean hostilities. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
Korea and Japan will hold a second round of talks this week on the issue of Japan's sexual enslavement of Korean women during World War II. An official at Seoul's foreign ministry says Lee Sang-dok, Korea's Director General for Northeast Asian Affairs, and his Japanese counterpart, Junichi Ihara, will meet in Tokyo as a follow-up meeting held last month in Seoul. He is expected to reiterate Seoul's demand for an official apology and legal compensation from Japan for the Japanese military's wartime sexual slavery of Korean women. Tokyo claims the issue was resolved through a 1965 treaty when the two countries normalized their diplomatic ties. Around 200,000 women, mostly Korean, were forced to serve the Japanese army in comfort stations in the early 20th century. Lee Gun-hee, the man credited with turning Samsung into one of the world's most powerful companies, remains in a stable condition in hospital after suffering a heart attack. Medical staff at the Samsung Medical Center in southern Seoul say the 72-year-old Samsung Electronics chairman is receiving hypothermia treatment to minimize damage to his heart. Hypothermia treatment prevents the generation of toxic material in blood vessels. Doctors have also taken steps to widen Lee's arteries, and he's now able to breathe on his own, but it's not yet known how long Lee will be hospitalized. Despite news of Lee's serious health problems, Samsung Electronics shares closed almost 4% higher on Monday and is up again by around 2% in morning trading today. The Korean won has been hovering around its highest level in nearly 6 years, and all signs suggest it will remain strong in the months to come. Our Hwang Jie has more on where analysts expect the $1 exchange rate to end up.
Expectations are growing of a stronger Korean won, which is already trading at the 1,020 level against the US dollar. Market watchers say that by the end of this year, the won is likely to breach the psychologically important 1,000 level. The Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi UFJ predicts the Korean won to trade at 975 against the dollar, while the American banking company Wells Fargo expects it to trade at 990. Analysts attribute the strength of the won to the widely shared perception that the Korean currency is undervalued. The IMF has recently said it believed the won is undervalued by as much as 8% and that the country has an unusually large current account surplus, which accounted for some 6% of the nation's gross domestic product last year. The U.S. Treasury Department called on Korea last month to limit foreign exchange intervention to exceptional circumstances. While there are concerns that the won is gaining strength too quickly, some analysts point out a strong dollar later this year could reverse the trend.
The recovery in the U.S. economy is back on track, and by September this year, when the Federal Reserve plans to end its stimulus programs, market expectations of a rate rise will mount, pushing up the value of the dollar.
With slowing exports to China, Park adds that even if the local currency does in fact dip to below the 1,000 level against the greenback, it will remain there only temporarily. Hwang Jie, ARIRANG News.
And foreign currency deposits in Korean banks hit a record high last month, outstripping a high mark set just 2 months earlier. The Bank of Korea said Monday that outstanding foreign currency denominated deposits stood at 58.4 billion US dollars as of the end of April. That's up $7.3 billion from the previous month. Corporate deposits accounted for about 90% of the total. Dollar-denominated and yuan-denominated deposits both rose on month as well. Officials at the central bank expect the trend to continue over the coming months as exporters put their dollars into deposits. Time now for a look through our international headlines. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim at the News Center for us. Now, Eunice, a new video has surfaced on YouTube that claims to show the schoolgirls kidnapped by the Islamist militant group Boko Haram last month.
That's right, Mark. As you will see shortly, the video shows dozens of girls wearing gray and black hijabs, at one point appearing to pray. There were also interviews with some of the girls, among them two who said they were Christians who were now Muslim. It also showed the leader Abu Bakr Shekau saying Boko Haram will not release the girls while their comrades are detained. Nigerian authorities are holding hundreds of suspected Boko Haram militants. The video showed some 130 girls, roughly half of the 276 believed to be still abducted by some counts, leading to the possibility that the students were split into smaller groups to avoid being found. And separatists in the eastern regions of Donetsk and nearby Luhansk in Ukraine declared independence after Sunday's referendum vote. They claimed 89% and 96% of voters, respectively, agreed they wanted self-rule. Now, a leader of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic is appealing to Russia to listen to the, quote, will of the people and absorb it. Ukraine's acting President Alexander Turchinov discounted the polls as nothing more than propaganda, a, quote, farce by terrorist separatists. The West have called the referendum illegal. Russia says it expects its results to be implemented in a civilized manner. Meanwhile, the European Union has added 13 more individuals and 2 companies to its sanctions list. And the world's biggest elections have wrapped in India. The marathon general polls began on April 7th and ended on Monday. 4 major exit polls showed opposition leader Narendra Modi in the lead to be India's next prime minister, and his Bharatiya Janata Party poised to take the parliamentary majority. Official results, though, are not released yet. They will be released on Friday. India's election commission announced Monday night the 9-phase elections recorded the country's highest ever voter turnout of over 66%. That's a record 551 million people who cast their vote for India's future. And finally, the central United States is being pounded with more wild weather. There were dozens of tornado reports on Sunday local time in the states of Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, South Dakota, and Indiana. This as snow overtook Wyoming and Colorado on Mother's Day weekend there. More winter storm warnings remain in effect, with the heaviest snowfall expected in the mountains of southwest Colorado, more than 30 centimeters worth through Tuesday.
And good morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team who began their training at the Paju National Training Center on Monday. And despite the training starting off rather quietly, with manager Hong Myung-bo arriving at the training center first and other players arriving dressed in a suit and a yellow ribbon to pay tribute to the Sewol-ho ferry victims, it was Park Ju-young who stated that he has no reasons to go to Brazil if the people don't want him to. He added that the media should ask the people what they think and he'll base his decisions on that. Meanwhile, manager Hong Myung-bo, who has been criticized for his recent selections, stated that he'll show what the team is capable of doing in Brazil. And staying with football, Park Ji-sung, who is currently here in the nation resting after a season with PSV Eindhoven, will be holding a press conference on Wednesday, according to the JS Foundation. And of course, with so much questions swirling around the future of Park Ji-sung, the entire nation will be looking forward to his press conference, which is set to take place at the Park Ji-sung Football Center in Suwon. The 33-year-old midfielder plans to discuss his future on the pitch, as it was speculated that he will retire if the Queen's Park Rangers remain in second tier. Meanwhile, he also plans to announce his wedding plans, which has only been surrounded by rumors so far. And moving over to the PGA Players Championship, which was delayed due to the poor weather conditions on the final day of the event. And while Martin Kamer held on to claim the title, it was Chae Kyung-ju, aka KJ Choi, who shined on the final round. And despite starting off the final round at 52nd place overall, the South Korean stormed through, shooting a 7-under on the day to finish at 7-under overall to finish tied for 13th. And despite falling short in the top 10 finish, the 44-year-old has been in great form this season as he hopes to add a PGA title this season. And now finishing things off with the South Korean national basketball team, where reports have surfaced that the men's national basketball team is also looking to naturalize an American to have them play for the team. Now, following the footsteps of the women's national basketball team, who hopes to naturalize Amber Harris, the men's team is apparently looking for possible foreigners who would play for Korea. And according to several sources, some of the players are Aaron Haynes, Courtney Sims, Rod Benson, and Davon Jefferson, to name a few. And while none of the players have commented on the issue just yet, head coach Yoo Jae-hak stated that he would prefer to have Courtney Sims on the team, believing that he best suits the team right now. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, lingering morning fog should gradually burn off as we go through the day. Then the sun will come out behind the clouds and temperatures will be warming well into mid to upper 20s in most regions. And Daegu will see a high of 31 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And right now, there's really nothing but sunshine over the peninsula, and it should remain this crystal clear all day long. So don't forget to apply a good amount of sunblock before heading out today, since the UV level will be high to very high in many regions today. So yes, we can expect to have early summer-like conditions this afternoon. So dress lighter during the day, and tomorrow should be also, we'll see a high of 25 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. But on Thursday, temperatures will drop a few degrees since we are expecting a showers in Gyeonggi-do province. Well, over in Jindo, winds and waves will be much calmer today, with winds blowing in at 5 to 9 meters per second, and waves will be as high as 1 meter under lots of sunshine. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Well, the morning low here in Seoul started out at 12 and we'll see a high of 26, while Daegu will peak at 31, when Gwangju and Busan should top out at 28 and 25 degrees respectively under lots of sunshine. Well, let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will reach 24 and 28 later in the day. Dokdo should see a high of 25, while Mount Kumgang tops out at 16. Well, please notice the big temperature difference between lows and highs and dress accordingly to avoid getting sick. Well, that's all I have for you at this hour, but I'll be back with more updates after noon.
OK, well, that's all for now. We'll be back for another newscast at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.